A lot of new information is emerging about Kyle Rittenhouse and what went down in Kenosha when 2 people were killed and a 3rd person was injured. But right now, because Tucker Carlson defended this young man, we have the left calling for Tucker to be fired. Gee, what else is new? And Tucker didn't say anything really extreme. In fact, he didn't even say it was self-defense. He just said that Kyle Rittenhouse sought to bring about law and order, or I'm paraphrasing here, to enforce order when no one else would. Something like that. And it's true. After 3 months of rioting, looting, burning, destruction, chaos, 30 people dead, a kid decided, I say kid, he's 17, decided to come out and protect some businesses. In fact, the New York Times has actually put together a pretty good thread, which in my opinion, it's just my opinion, not a legal opinion, clear self-defense. I think the kid should be released. I think he probably deserves a good finger wag. That's really about it. I mean, and not necessarily because he did anything wrong, but maybe a little overzealous going out there. But I get why he did what he did. The only real challenge to what happened in Kenosha is that Kyle Rittenhouse was 17 and open carry in Wisconsin is you have to be at least 18 years old. However, there's an exception for rifles and shotguns for people between the ages of 15 and 17. So he might actually be fine. However, he did cross state lines. There's a lot to break down. But first, let's talk about I got to rag on the media because they're coming after Tucker Carlson while ignoring the horrible, horrible actions of basically every other media outlet. It's scary to me. It is. Tucker Carlson's a very smart, reasonable guy. Obviously, I disagree with him on some things. I think all of us in the sane, rational center to center left to right, the intellectual dark web types, political homeless, conservatives, whatever this faction is, we all basically agree on being reasonable and looking at objective facts and logic. The left doesn't. They're falsely framing what happened, in my opinion, because it's really, really hurting Joe Biden. And I mean really hurting Joe Biden. They are in full-on panic mode. But so, of course, they're coming after Fox News because Tucker, one of the highest rated shows on TV, and in fact, I believe he's the highest rated cable show as of right now, ever. They got to shut him down. His message is getting out. He's breaking through the narrative. Well, guess what? Tucker will do his thing. So will I, and so will many others. And I'm going to break down their lies. From Newsweek, they say, Fox News host Tucker Carlson has been accused of inciting violence after he said that a teenager charged with homicide for shooting 2 protesters had, quote, decided to maintain order when no one else would. That's the quote. Calls were growing for Carlson to be fired following his monologue about the violence in Kenosha, Wisconsin, in which he appeared to say that 17-year-old Kyle Rittenhouse's actions were understandable after days of chaos sparked by the police shooting of Jacob Blake. I'll go one step further, Tucker. 3 months, 30 people dead. I'm sorry, man. If a 10-year-old was like, I want to protect my family after 3 months of violent riots and murder and death, I totally get it. I do. I mean, all of this is tragic. I don't want any of this to happen. I don't think anybody does, except for the extremists. But I'm not going to blame this kid. He was, according to the New York Times, he was actually rendering aid to Black Lives Matter individuals. He had a medical kit on him. I think he just wanted to. He really did want to help keep the peace, and he wanted to help people, even the protesters, the rioters. They say in a segment on Wednesday in which he introduced graphic footage from the riots, including images of a protester bleeding in the street after being shot in the head. They censored it. Come on. The Fox anchor said that Kenosha has devolved into anarchy because the authorities in charge of the city abandoned it. He accused the authorities from the governor of Wisconsin on down of refusing to enforce the law. For the most part, I agree with this, but the governor does deserve credit because he finally turned around and said, please, Trump, yes, we'll take federal enforcement. And then we get these videos of feds jumping out of cars, smashing a van window and pulling people out, arresting them. Quote, they stood back and watched Kenosha burn. So are we really surprised that looting and arson accelerated to murder? How shocked are we that 17-year-olds with rifles decided they had to maintain order when no one else would? Everyone can see what was happening in Kenosha. It was getting crazier by the hour. The violence has been building unabated for 3 months now. Every day, the mob becomes more radical, he added. Sounds a lot like me. His comments promoted an immediate backlash from many high-profile figures who called for advertisers to drop the host, in a reprise of past controversies involving appeals for Carlson to be fired. Former Labor Secretary under President Clinton, Robert Reich, tweeted, if they don't take action after this, every one of Fox News' executives, directors, and advertisers is complicit in Tucker Carlson's racist, murderous rants. John Cusack said, we need to boycott cable until they ban Fox News. We can also boycott their sponsors. Yeah, I don't care about these people. I really don't. I say things that I think Tucker says things that go a little bit further than I do. Not that he goes far at all. Like Tucker's fairly moderate, to be honest, and he's being reasonable. We actually have this thread. This is amazing. Christian Tribert. This is the New York Times Visual Investigations. Broke down all of the footage. Clear-cut case of self-defense. Now, there's some questions about the legalities of whether or not Kyle Rittenhouse could legally be carrying a weapon. The first question I have. So typically, if you're in the process of committing a crime and you kill somebody for any reason, it's typically considered murder. However, this is usually assumed to be something like, I don't know, you're robbing someone and then someone, tries to stop you and you kill them. Well, you were committing the crime. You were the instigator. This is different. Although he was arguably committing a crime if the hunting exemption doesn't apply, then he was underage crossing state lines with a rifle. In this case, they might argue that he wasn't legally allowed to be armed and therefore it doesn't qualify. Now, some people have already pointed out it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the circumstances in which you defend yourself. Self-defense applies. It would be a totally different charge. Kyle Rittenhouse is being charged with first-degree intentional homicide. I don't believe now, based on what I've read, that will stick. But there are some comments, people say, honestly, we don't know for sure. We'll see how things play out, especially, considering where he lives is called Antioch, Illinois. It's about 20 minutes from Kenosha. And he drove to Wisconsin, and you get the left saying he drove across state lines. But come on, it's 20 minutes. It may still have a legal impact, but for the most part, it would seem as of right now, Kyle Rittenhouse was armed legally because there is an exception for people between the ages of 15 and 17 to carry the weapon. And according to this thread, I got to say, clear-cut self-defense. But let's read through it. They say, Christian says, a teenager faces charges in the shootings of two people. The NYT Visual Investigations team reviewed hours of live streams to track what happened. He says in the hours before the shooting, Christian T. Harris, Richie McGinnis, and Elijah Schaefer all interviewed Rittenhouse, who said he was protecting a local vehicle dealership together with several others. Rittenhouse is around that area when the footage, happens, blah, blah, blah. Rittenhouse walks up to a police vehicle with his rifle slung, talks to officers. One tosses a water bottle to the armed men, as seen in Christian T. Harris's live stream. Rittenhouse eventually leaves the dealership. He says to better understand what happened next, we synchronized 6 live streams, which revealed that there were 2 separate shooting incidents. One about 1.5 minutes apart, involving multiple gunmen. Here's the most important part. Rittenhouse is being chased. While he is being pursued, an unknown gunman fires the first shots into the air. Now, they say into the air. I'm not sure if they're saying they aimed the weapon up. But what happens is you can actually see the muzzle flash. And I pointed this out in my earlier segment. You can hear multiple shots. He then says, the New York Times, Rittenhouse turns to face the individual, fires back, hitting him in the head. These individuals early on in the night were actually threatening many of these young men, saying straight up they wanted them to shoot him. And these guys have criminal records. Rittenhouse turns toward the sound of gunfire as another pursuer lunges toward him. He fires 4 times and appears to shoot the man in the head. The muzzle flash of the first shot it can be seen. That's the most important part. And the meme going around right now is that Kyle Rittenhouse didn't shoot first. Clear case of self-defense, right? Well, Will Chamberlain says this is going to be huge for the self-defense case. 1, lunatic is chasing after Rittenhouse. 2, gunshot from another weapon behind Rittenhouse. Those 2 combined equal. Rittenhouse has a reasonable fear that deadly force is being used / about to be used against him. Here's what I responded. But if open carry is 18 and older, why won't they just say he killed people while committing a crime, negating self-defense? And Will Chamberlain, who is a lawyer, said, good question, would need to read about it. However, several people responded to me straight up saying, no. The first bit of logic, I think, actually makes a lot of sense. Let's say, like, you're running down the street because people are chasing you screaming and they're, throwing things at you and they're armed. And you see somebody, you see like, a weapon on someone's property. If you grab that, you're not legal. It's not yours. You're not legally allowed to have it. And then defend yourself from people trying to kill you. I'd imagine they're going to argue you were defending yourself. You might get a separate charge, but I really doubt it. Now, there may be a charge because he showed up with the weapon, but in terms of self-defense, these people had already fired, potentially at him. They were already attacking him, and I believe they would have killed him. I really do. One guy jumped and then kicked him in the face, Rittenhouse, and he falls down. The skateboard guy, who has a history of domestic violence convictions, runs over. Some people have said he hit him with the skateboard. It kind of looks like he's trying to hold him down. I'm not entirely sure, but you can watch the video. Anyway, Rittenhouse is being attacked from all sides. He turns and he fires, hits the guy, according to the New York Times, in the stomach. I'm not sure if this guy died. They say the stomach, but I'd imagine if he died that quickly, it had to have been a shot through like the aorta, his circulatory system. I'm not entirely sure. Then the third guy runs up, armed with the Glock 9mm. That's how people have identified it. I'm assuming it's a Glock, but he does have a gun. And when he reaches to try and grab the weapon, Kyle shoots him, and you can see, I'm sorry, man, we're getting graphic here, the flesh explode off of this man's arm. His bicep is gone. I believe this man will probably never use his arm again. I mean, he's not going to be able to lift it. That's for sure. But here's the interesting point. Over at the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, they say, 17-year-old suspect in Kenosha shootings was too young to open carry, might still raise self-defense. They point out that there's actually some important provisions here. Kyle Rittenhouse, a 17-year-old militia member, blah, 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 is carrying a rifle. They say, according to statutes, they say anyone under 18 who goes armed with any deadly weapon is guilty of a Class A misdemeanor. John Monroe, a lawyer who specializes in gun rights cases, believes an exemption for rifles and shotguns intended to allow people ages 16 and 17 to hunt could apply. That's simple. The law may be intended to allow young people to hunt, but typically they don't put the intent in the law. Well, I don't know that's true. I'm not a lawyer, but the general idea is the law will say if you are with, between the ages of 16 and 17, rifles and shotguns, will not be, restricted in this way. Basically, what they're saying is, as written, they don't want you to carry handguns. But because young people go hunt with their, out in the wilderness with their, or in hunting areas with their family and friends, they need to be able to allow, they need to be able to carry these weapons. Therefore, they just carve out the exception. That's it. Kyle may have been legally allowed to be carrying that rifle, and thus, clear-cut case of self-defense. Now, I want to talk to you about how the politicos are responding to this. The first thing I want to show you is, I showed this in my earlier segment, but I'm going to bring it up now just because I want the context in this video. CNN Chiron calls Wisconsin riots mostly peaceful as correspondent stands in front of a burning building. People are dead. People have been dying. For 3 months, we've seen death, and they still won't stop. But they want Tucker Carlson fired. They're lying. These people have no scruples. They have no integrity, and they are just lying. It's what they do. I saw a post on my Facebook page, someone who's friend of me. I have max friends on Facebook. I just accepted everybody, whatever. But somebody said that these guys who died were martyrs trying to stop a white supremacist, who was hunting down BLM members. Lies. Just insane lies. I mean, we can watch the video. The New York Times shows us someone else fired first. Kyle did not fire the first shots. He was being chased. Someone stomped his face while he was on the ground. He tripped and fell. Someone runs up and then jumps and then boom, right in his face. So he fired in self-defense, no doubt. But they are lying because they want power. There's a viral video of a woman. She's screaming that armed groups are shooting people in this. They're shooting protesters in the streets. And she's like, you want war, you're going to get it. These people are insane, man. Fueled by CNN. You know why CNN does this? Because they know that their audience supports the extremism. They just need to own up to it. Just come out and say it, CNN. CNN puts up a chyron that says straight up fiery, but mostly peaceful protests. That's right. Fiery, but mostly peaceful protests. It's just absolutely crazy. Caleb Hull says you cannot make this up. A CNN reporter is standing in front of a building engulfed in flames, and it reads fiery, but mostly peaceful protest after police shooting. Bravo, CNN. Bravo, CNN. He says literally this. Nothing to see here. Please disperse. People are running. The building's blowing up. I can't remember. It's probably from Naked Gun, that clip. So anyway, Ayanna Pressley, you know her, one of the squad members, tweeted, a 17-year-old white supremacist domestic terrorist drove across state lines armed with an AR-15. He shot and killed 2 people who had assembled to affirm the value, dignity, and worth of black lives. Fix your damn headlines. Wow. I did. I fixed it. Don't worry, Ayanna. I got you. I said a 17-year-old drove 20 minutes from his home in Antioch to defend businesses after 3 months of looting and 30 people killed in the George Floyd riots. He was attacked and killed 2 people defending himself. Though he appears too young to legally open carry, he has been arrested. There you go. That's the story. Why is Ayanna Pressley lying? More importantly, why does she have 77,700 retweets, 278,000 likes? Because they don't care about the truth. These people listen, you need to understand, to them, you are the bad guy. You there, John, sitting in your living room, minding your own business. You got work in a couple hours, second shift, and you just want to go to work, do your thing, get your job done, get your paycheck, come home, take care of the bills. They're saying straight up to you, when they come to your house, like they did the McCloskeys, armed, you are the bad guy. You're the terrorist. Heaven forbid you stand up to defend your community where you live. State lines. You see how they frame this? Drove across state lines, armed with an AR-15. First of all, Second Amendment right, you can carry an AR-15, and drove across state lines. The dude lived in Antioch, which is about a 20-minute drive from Kenosha. You could argue it's basically a suburb of Kenosha. I mean, Kenosha is basically a suburb of, Kenosha's its own city, sure, fine. But it's probably, you could argue it's just part of the suburbs. There are interesting ramifications to driving across state lines, but Antioch, literally, like, if you're in Antioch, Illinois, you could walk for 3 blocks and be in Wisconsin. That's how close it is. They try to make it seem as worse, as horrifying as possible. I'm not going to play this game where I'm going to frame it the other way, where I say, like, a 17-year-old honorable young man trying to defend his home from violent extremists stood his ground and was nearly killed, but heroically stopped 2 of these terrorists. I'm not even going to play that game. I'm not going to say that either. You could. No, I'm going to say it was a 17-year-old who drove from his home after months of rioting and death, and he was attacked and he defended himself, and he's been arrested. He's being charged. We will see how this plays out. Tucker Carlson said something similar, and because of this, they want him fired. But like I mentioned earlier on, the real reason they want Tucker Carlson fired is because he is one of the last defenses for sane, rational thought on cable news television. I'm not a big fan of most of what Fox News has to offer. I was having a conversation the other night with some people, and I'm just like, my personal opinion, I think Hannity's all right. I think he phones it in. I think Laura Ingraham and Hannity are a bit, bombastic. I think Tucker Carlson he's well thought out. He's well reasoned. He's moderate. And I think there's some things I disagree with him on. He had a segment last year about, like marijuana laws or something. And I thought it was silly because I'm much more of a, libertarian, left-leaning libertarian. But I think Tucker Carlson does a good job of assessing these things and giving a reasonable and for the most part, populist approach. Recently, it was really funny when we saw Tucker do this handoff with Sean Hannity, where Tucker was criticizing these big, massive corporations who are making tons of money while small businesses are being destroyed. And Hannity's response was like, if a business has a service and they're going to make money, so be it. And Tucker did the Tucker face. You know what I'm talking about. But I think it's really funny that you sometimes have these differences of opinions. But I think the reason why they go after Tucker and not Sean Hannity, it's obvious. Now, of course, they go after Hannity a bit, but come on. They've tried destroying Tucker Carlson to no end. They just won't stop. It's crazy. It's lies. It's insane. It's because Tucker is reasonable, really good at his job, and he's pulling the mask off. They don't seem to care about look, they've dragged Laura Ingraham. They've dragged Hannity and several others. But Tucker, man, they go after this guy. They want to destroy his life. Meanwhile, they just don't care about what's actually happening. Let me break it down for you, man. Things are going to get crazy. They're crazy now. They've been crazy, but all that crazy is being normalized, and that's what scares me. I think it's going to get worse. When you see Ayanna Pressley get now look, it's real time, 78,000 retweets. When you see people like Sean King advocating for more, what do you think's going to happen? They're going to come to your house. I know I say it all the time. I said it in my last segment. I'm going to say it again, man. When you get 78,000 retweets on this post, you got a lot of people who have no idea what's really going on, who are being manipulated by evil people. Ayanna Pressley, I'm going to say it straight up. She's evil. You know why? She's someone in a position of power who completely lied about what's happening. The New York Times did a hardcore breakdown. I am trying to be reasonable in telling you what actually happened to the best of my abilities. even in the sense that Kyle Rittenhouse may be charged because he was underage. I want to make sure I cover the bases and give you the power for you to take care of yourself. I don't want to be involved. I don't want to be a politician. I don't want to be in charge of anybody. I don't want to set policy. I want to be left alone. Ayanna Pressley is in government. She wants to win. She wants power. And she will lie, cheat, and steal to get all the power she can. Same thing with Shaun King. We are coming to a point where truly evil people are encouraging pain and suffering because they want power. I'm reticent to say those words, to say evil, because for the longest time, I really felt like most of us just had differences of opinion. When I would see the left and the right arguing with each other, sometimes people would refer to each other as evil. For the most part, it was like, I would often say, I think most of us want the same thing. We just want life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, but we disagree on how to get there. Today, I don't feel that way because Ayanna Pressley is overtly lying. The New York Times laid it out. We know what happened, but she's lying. She is inciting people. That's what this is. They're trying to get Tucker Carlson fired. He didn't do anything or say anything, but they're lying because they want power. Once they get that power, they will oppress you. They will hurt you, and you will not have freedom. And I'm worried about it. I'm worried about Joe Biden winning. I'm worried about the Democrats maintaining this power while they lie every step of the way. And it's starting to reflect in the polls, and they know it, and that's why they're beginning to panic. The reason why they're pushing these lies is because people know what's happening. They've had enough. The only way to protect their power, protect their base, is to convince America that this 17-year-old kid who defended himself is a white supremacist terrorist. He's 17, dude. That's not true. He's just some local kid from the Chicagoland area, and there's rioting, and he went to go do what he thought was right. There's photos of him cleaning up graffiti earlier in the day. It's a tragic situation. But if regular people find out how bad it really is, the leftist extremists will lose their control. That's why they're lying. They need to be voted out. We need someone to come in and set policy and send in the federal law enforcement agencies to end the riots. And that's definitely not going to be the left because they like it. So here's what's happening. The Democrats are scared to say anything because they know the left does support this. And if they come out and they know regular people don't, it's now hitting Biden in the polls. The next segment will be coming up at youtube.com/Timcast. It's a different channel. We're going to break down Joe Biden's polls are dropping because regular people are waking up and saying enough. They know the Democrats can't take care of this because the far left has taken over the Democratic Party. And now their leaders are helpless to do anything about it. I'll see you all at 4, youtube.com/Timcast. Thanks for hanging out.